Hey everyone, welcome to Fox 10 Talks, Wednesday edition. I'm Brian Webb with Trenton Hooker here. We have our whole team joining us back there. If you'd like to join us on YouTube, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And you might like this one. If you like space and you like aliens and that's your thing, strap them in because this could get bumpy.
Yes.
But it's always such a fun topic to go there. And they have us sitting closer together, maybe because we can.
Despite what our human resources director wants, we're still here. We're still doing it.
The 6
We're still
feet
talking.
thing is gone.
It's gone. Yeah, those days have passed.
So we are talking about there's a new baby planet being formed outside of our solar system.
Yes.
And it's unique in many ways. And I think one of the ways is that it is being surrounded by a disk of gas and dust. And these things aren't often seen, but probably are out there a lot more than we know. And it has an Arizona connection. The U of A is big with all things space. And I think one or more of their telescopes was used.
Right. And just the research here, I mean, it's way above our pay grade, but the just so fascinating that we're able to see some of this and get the data and really get a little bit of a peek on what's going out in just unbelievable areas of the universe right now. But let's bring in our guest, University of Arizona professor Laird Close. Professor, thanks for joining us on Fox 10 Talks. Can you tell us about the findings with this planet?
Yeah, sure. Well, that was a pretty good introduction there. So we're pretty excited. Everybody knows that, we have planets like Jupiter, big gas giants, but we don't know very much about how they form. We know they get huge, but we don't know that process very well. So we've been hunting, our team, and that's great. You've got the photo up there, has been hunting for signs of these, basically baby planets, growing baby planets. So the purple dot that you see on the screen there, that purple dot is an actual picture, an actual photo of a giant planet that's actually growing. And these are extremely rare. And this is the only one that we've ever been able to find that's actually clearing an area around the disk of dust and gas. So you can sort of see that ring around the star. It looks a little bit like Saturn's ring, but it's a ring around a star. And that planet, that big purple planet, has carved out a big gap in that ring. And even though we sort of think that that's what should be going on in systems like this, this was a completely new and exciting discovery.
So Professor, if I'm hearing you right or thinking through this right, so in theory, that planet might have been part of the ring at some point, coalesced with enough mass that it kind of shot off and then now orbits on its own, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we sort of understand it, and actually to be clear, it's a mystery. We don't have all the things figured out, but the sort of idea is that over time, material falls onto the planet once it gets to be about, maybe 20 Earths in mass, and then it starts to rapidly accrete gas and dust onto it, and it grows very quickly in mass. And in that process, it removes all the material that's around the star in that region, in that orbital region. It will basically suck all the material onto it, all the gas and dust, clear a dark lane. If you look really carefully, you can see out to the far right, there's another dust part of the disk. And you can see the purple dot has carved out darkness all around it because it's a growing planet. It needs food, it needs its gas, it needs its hydrogen gas to grow. And so that's what we're actually seeing for the first time. And there's also an artist's illustration here that's sometimes up that's showing how that material falls onto the planet. And as it falls onto the planet, it gets super hot. When it gets super hot, because as you know, when things fall from outer space on to the Earth, they get really hot. The same process kind of goes on with the gas, and we can see that heat, and that's how we can tell that there's actually a plasma on the surface of the planet. So there's sort of this wild ring of superheated gas, this sort of plasma ring around this planet, which really makes them some of the most interesting things in the whole universe. And this is the first time we've ever seen one clearing its own gap. So it's an exciting discovery, and it's made all with technology that was built here in Arizona. It's a very sophisticated, it's probably the world's most sophisticated camera in many ways. And we use it in Chile, but it was built at the University of Arizona campus, obviously here in Arizona. And so it's a very exciting, it's kind of a local story. And that makes it super fun.
Professor Close, can you tell us a little bit more about your team? Now, you're working on multiple continents together to, build this, to put it together, to bring the data, and then obviously look at what you found out there. But can you talk about the coordination? And am I wrong that there was also a European team as part of this?
So science is massively collaborative these days, and we work closely. We built the instrument here in Arizona. We use it on a telescope that Arizona, the state of Arizona, owns 10% of down in the beautiful Atacama Desert of Chile. And then at the same time, we were alerted the disk itself was the ring that you can see was discovered by my friends in Leiden Observatory. And they alerted us to this. And then that's in the Netherlands. And then they alerted us to it. And then we went and used our fancy camera to see if we could see signs of accreting planets, growing planets, like that purple dot that you see around that ring, because they were like, this ring is amazing. Maybe there's something carving out the disk. And sure enough, we were able to find that. And so it was kind of exciting. I'll admit, it doesn't often work out quite so cleanly, but yeah, we basically just discovered this in April. Wow. And already the publications are out and it's all very exciting. So this was a very quick turnaround.
Professor, can I throw a few questions at you? And forgive me, I just want to get them off my head before I forget. First of all, this is outside of our solar system. Is it part of another solar system or just wandering out there by itself?
That's right, Brian. It's a completely different alien solar system. This alien solar system is different from our solar system. It's much bigger. Like that planet we were looking at is about 56 times the Earth-Sun separation. So like our own Jupiter is only about 5 times that. So it's sort of like 10 times wider than our solar system. And it's probably the planets are much more massive. That planet's probably about 5 times the mass of Jupiter. So it's a super Jovian planet. And that's sort of why we were able to see it, because it's actually hard to actually directly photograph planets in other solar systems. It's tricky, very small angles because they're very far away. It's about 500 light years away. So that's what the planet looked 500 years ago. Right. But I'm sure it more or less looks the same today.
And if Trenton doesn't mind, a couple of quick ones. Why do planets form gassy versus rocky? And why...
You've been wanting to ask that one since the 3rd grade, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Finally.
I'm like a 3rd grader again.
Yeah,
I love this.
Love it.
Why gas versus rocky do we know? And why doesn't the sun just chew up all of the rocks floating? Or why do there need to be planets? Why is that part of the process of forming? Why do they even need to be there? Why do we need to be here? Why are we here?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we still, planet formation is still a great mystery, but luckily for us, nature does like to make planets. We only account for a very, very small amount of the total mass in a solar system. Most of the mass, as you say, is in a star. But even with a little bit of mass left over, you can make some pretty big planets. And we know that Wispit 2, which is the name of that purple planet that you were showing, we know that Wispit 2b is gaseous because we can see the hydrogen gas falling onto it. We can, and through that process, we can estimate its mass. And we know its mass is about 5 times Jupiter. And so we know that it's covered in a thick gaseous atmosphere. A rocky planet would be super exciting, but that technology is actually probably not really possible with today's telescopes. We have to wait to the next generation of telescopes that we're working on in the state of Arizona, and hopefully going to deploy in the 2030s in Chile, actually just at the site right beside the telescope that we used for this image, at the Magellan Observatory.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, Professor Close, real quick, we've got a couple minutes left, but can you talk to us just about what are the implications for this discovery with our solar system? Because, right, 4.5 billion years ago, our solar system began just like a disk.
Yeah, no, such a great question. So the reason why I think this is such exciting science is this is sort of like this system is probably about 5 million years old. So what the way to think about it is this is what our solar system would have looked like when it was 1,000 times younger than it is today. And so we probably had rings around our sun. I mean, we sort of have an asteroid belt now, but they would have been big, bright rings like we see around the Wispit 2 system. And we would have seen, just like we see these giant planets like Wispit 2b carving arcs, I bet that's what our solar system would have looked like as you have massive planets like Jupiter, probably also made a dark gap in our solar system's original ring. And it tells us something about the way the solar system forms. It tells us something about the way the water got moved around in the solar system. These giant planets, they can scatter water in towards the sun, which can deliver water to planets like the Earth, which is, of course, we know is really important for life. So there is a component to this research that helps us understand the architecture, if you will, of other solar systems that help us better understand how the architecture of our own solar system would have looked when it was 1,000 times younger.
Professor, we have 1 minute. What are you going to look for next?
Well, I think it would be exciting to the ultimate thing before I retire. I'd love to be able to do the same work that we're doing now, come back on your show and talk about rocky planets and looking at signs of life in reflected light off rocky planets. But that will be that's a big time project. It's going to take a giant Magellan telescope, which we're working on right now. And that won't see first light till about the early 2030s. But that's going to be the really big, exciting story. That's going to be the next exciting big story.
Good stuff.
Oh, man, we're all for it.
Yeah.
Well, Professor Laird Close, we're not going to move from this desk, so we'll be here waiting for you on that discovery. We'll break it on Fox 10 Talks. But thank you for your time, sir. Really appreciate it.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Trenton. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, sir. Have a good afternoon. That was good. If you think if that's our platform,
yes, coming up next
for the
Donald Schmitt. He's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about UAPs, transparency,
which we used to call UFOs, right?
Not anymore. Hey, thanks for sticking with us, folks. Fox 10 Talks. We've got a very special guest joining us right now. So Donald Schmitt, he's a renowned UFO researcher. We're talking UAPs with transparency in the age of secrecy that was before. But now it just seems like there's an openness to talking about things that really go back a decade, 2 decades, not happening.
And as time goes on, we seem to have more and more of these legit sightings from people who are, paid to know what they're looking at. Air Force pilots and that kind of thing.
It moves beyond, I think, just the maybe
Uncle Joe saw it out at the lake.
I've got a hell of a story for you. Maybe have a blurry photograph. That's it. But now we're getting disclosures where the government is releasing videos of what are these things that are happening. But Don, thanks for joining us.
Gentlemen, pleasure.
Really excited to talk about this. Now, the first thing that I wanted to get into, if we could, there was a House Oversight Committee hearing that happened a few weeks ago where the videos that were being shown, and one in particular that I wanted to talk about first, if we could, was this footage of a military drone. Believe this was over Yemen. That we have it where it's tracking something on camera. You see it's a laser designated FLIR cam that pops up, and then this drone fires a missile at the thing and seemingly strikes it. There it is, boom, gets hit. Wow.
It just kind of knocks it off course and keeps on trucking.
Yeah.
What do you take on that?
What was your read when you saw this?
What's going on there?
Well, there's a level of consistency that goes back for decades. Not only people, shooting at these objects and describing how the bullets just ricochet right off, or even where objects merge, where we've lost aircraft. The one incident over Lake Superior, for example, that happened many years ago, where they tracked the two on radar, and it was as though the two became one. And all that then leaves the area is the UFO. So whether we're talking about some form of a force field, something that deflects, even an incoming missile, well, again, we're shooting bullets out of the sky ourselves. The Patriot missiles and that type of thing. What is the estimate that as far as Israel alone, 90% of the incoming missiles have been destroyed. So it's a technology that we will only, as far as develop and specialize even further with particle beam and with lasers and that type of thing. So I still don't see it as being something, totally extraterrestrial, that is beyond our own scope, beyond our own technology. But nonetheless, it still looks very impressive because you're talking about a stationary object or moving very slowly, and it would take a direct hit from a missile and yet kind of just shake it off as though, what was that, a mosquito?
Yeah, right. Hey, Don, do you think there are more of these objects out there, or are we just seeing them more because we're more capable now? And what's going to finally make you go, aha, that's the smoking gun, we've got it? Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be the granddaddy of all UFO cases, and that'd be the Roswell incident that we've worked on for over now 30 years. The fact that we've tracked down and interviewed over 600 witnesses, and a good number of them high-ranking military officers. And back at that time, just post-World War II, the skies were virgin. They were pristine. Jet and rocket propulsions were both in their infancy at that time. So there were few alternatives. Today, there are dozens of possibilities. You mentioned drones earlier. And so that's why I'm not as keen. I'm not as, excited about, these daily reports that come in, because, again, there are just so many alternative explanations that may suffice. And we have to be careful that we're not drawn into situations that are then readily explained just by more contemporary technology that would explain away these modern day cases.
And Don, I want to talk to you real quick, if we can go back to after Roswell. and talk about Project Blue Book and J. Allen Hynek. So if you could tell us real quick, who was J. Allen Hynek and what was Project Blue Book?
J. Allen Hynek was my scientific advisor at the Center for UFO Studies in Chicago. I worked with him personally for 8 years, and he still will go down as the foremost authority on the very subject of UFOs, UAPs. And much of that originating when he served as the scientific consultant to the Air Force's Project Blue Book, which was the most famous of their 3 official UFO investigations. The first one immediately after Roswell being Project Sign, the next one being Grudge, but Blue Book was the longest and the most highly publicized. And one of the things that Hynek always emphasized to us was that Blue Book was nothing more than a public relations front, that as we are experiencing today with the hearings in Washington, that there were trained pilots, strategic air command officers, highly experienced witnesses that were reporting these objects, profound cases that defied conventional explanation. And yet Blue Book, as Hynek would say, would jump through hoops, doing whatever it took to explain away every last possible report.
And Don, I believe that's where they came up with the term swamp gas. That's
where,
right?
and Hynek was labeled with that for merely explaining away. It was the Dexter, Ann Arbor, Michigan sightings of 1966. Many university students, there were police involved, there was an Air Force officer involved, and there was a farmer who just happened to also see something over a marsh area. And for merely explaining that one specific sighting of literally dozens at that time, and they labeled it swamp gas. And Hynek was stuck with that, no matter just how innocent he was in just trying to come up again with a rational explanation. That's what science does. And so, we learned our lesson by that. Make sure that you don't give the media a tagline. Make sure you control the negative, and otherwise you'll be stuck with it.
It'll be plastered to your epitaph.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, we have a question from one of our viewers, Charles David. He says, has anyone here ever seen anything they believe could be extraterrestrial? So your
Brian
thoughts?
Webb's really the only extraterrestrial I know of, the superhuman ability.
Fair enough. Where do you put anyone ever seen anything like that you know of?
Mm-hmm.
No, I never have.
Okay.
And that's why I come into this very genuine, very sincere, and yet I was a complete skeptic. When we first started working on Roswell, I thought we'd make a single weekend jaunt down to the land of enchantment and readily, prove this was nothing more than a mere weather balloon device, as the government still maintains, or something just as prosaic. And here we are now, all these years later.
Now, to be clear, what changed your mind on that, Don?
The eyewitnesses, one by one,
okay,
whether it was the highest ranking military officer or down to who was a child back at the time on one of the outlying ranches who managed to handle a piece of the wreckage before it was all cleaned up, all contained by the military. And one by one, they describe it identically. That memory material, paper-thin metal that you couldn't cut, you couldn't burn, even a bullet wouldn't penetrate. But you could crumble it, you could crease it, you could fold it. And every time you would place it down, it would unfurl, it would unravel, it would flow like water and assume its original shape and size right before your eyes. We don't even have such materials today. And certainly as these witnesses were, again, matching their descriptions, we left, and we couldn't get back down to New Mexico fast enough, because it's like, my God, we potentially were on the biggest story of the millennium, because they were truly describing something beyond our technology.
Don, can you talk a little bit about just how that all unfolded, at least with the government initially, right? They kind of issued a press release where we're talking to the media that, hey, we found a flying saucer.
And it was the famous headline.
Right. And then, of course, it changed rapidly after that.
And a little bit
5 hours, right.
And
they
a little bit, Don,
Yeah.
Why, and if you don't mind me adding to that question, why the secrecy? What are they afraid of?
Well, certainly back then, with the beginning of the Cold War, and there already was the race as far as developing atomic power, atomic energy. We had the bomb. The Russians were hot on on our heels with the same testing, and then basically, just the fear factor. Historically, this was just 9 years after the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast. So this was very fresh in their minds at that time. And the thought that, my God, if we were to announce something of this magnitude, could we control it? Would it be something where we'd have panic in the streets? Would we, have mass suicide? Who could tell? And above everything else, they didn't have any answers. They didn't know if this was a vanguard of an approaching invasion. They didn't know if it was friend or foe. They had no ideas. So the point being, until they secured explanations as to what we were dealing with and whose aircraft or spacecraft were we dealing with and where were they from and what were their intentions, the best thing they could do was try to put that genie back in the bottle.
Got it.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to talk about, Don, because if we could, we actually want to hold you over for our break in just a minute. But more on J. Allen Hynek and with Project Blue Book, if we could, just a little smidge on, he was a skeptic going into that program, but at the end of it, he thought, hey, there were some of these cases we couldn't explain that really changed his mind.
And we also want to ask you, if you don't mind holding on through our break, it's a 2-minute break, I believe, if we can ask you about the famous Phoenix lights.
Yes.
If we can ask you about that on the flip side. Stay with us a minute, Don.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back with those questions and answers. Appreciate your time.
So we'll be right there, folks. And also ask us questions in the chat if you can. If there's anything you want to know, we're talking UFOs today. We're talking outer space.
Pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Out of this world conversation, really.
We'll be right back.
Okay. We're about to go back in. Just
okay.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us for Fox 10 Talks. Don Schmitt is joining us. We're having a great conversation. Don, before we went to break, we were talking about J. Allen Hynek and how he went into Project Blue Book as a skeptic, but by the end of it, there were cases that obviously they couldn't come up with an explanation for, but it really, really changed his mind just on, we don't know what these are, and looking at the possibilities. Can you talk a little bit about that and his how he had that journey?
Blue Book was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And Hynek was head of the astronomy department at Ohio State, just down the road in Columbus. So he was convenient in that regard. And as you mentioned, he was also a skeptic. And the biggest problem that Hynek had was in, explaining as far as the vast distances, how do you travel from point A to point B? That he just couldn't, as an astronomer, reason how physical objects could actually traverse, the space and the whole space and time, situation, that type of thing. And the thing is, the longer he was involved, and granted, the Air Force kept him on a short leash because he was still traveling and lecturing all over the country, in fact, all over the world at that time. And he was talking to pilots, both military and commercial, and they would describe some of the most fantastic experiences. And then when he would be down at Wright-Pat, and he'd be looking through the Blue Book files from all the accumulated reports that came in through the month before, his return, where's this case? Where's that case? Where's so-and-so's report? And he quickly realized that they were censoring, that cases that were of the highest strangest cases were not part of the Blue Book system. They were going directly to Washington. They were going to the Pentagon. So Hynek very early on realized that he was getting a sanitized version of what was taking place at that time. Yeah. So if they feel compelled to cover this up, why are they covering it up? Exactly. And what are they covering up?
And you got to wonder, we've had how many presidents since then, and why haven't they released the information to the public, if they can have access to that? Don, let me ask you something that's near and dear to our heart here in Phoenix, the infamous Phoenix Lights. What's your take?
Yes. Well, because there were two separate situations. And I mean, we can document the fact that the Air National Guard was using red flares, and that way they were conducting as far as some training exercises. But that in no way is connected to what even your former governor, as far as witnessed that particular night. Yep. And a huge wing-shaped craft that blocked out the stars and moved very methodically, soundlessly, that hundreds and hundreds of people witnessed. And as it turns out, there were other people in other states that were experiencing the same thing. Not at the exact same time, but either before or thereafter. Was this the same craft, the same object, that type of thing? So that in itself would remove it from any military exercise that was going on over the Phoenix area. The fact that there were also additional reports from adjoining states during that evening.
Wow. Don, we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you an important question that I think the boyhood Trenton, the boyhood Brian,
we want
to know and get on the record here. But your take, are we alone?
Well, as has often been said, we would be extremely arrogant in assuming that we are the lone life form throughout the universe. And one of the things that I continually point out, the very proof, the very fact that we exist demonstrates that there has to be life elsewhere. There has to be life as far as that. It may be extent throughout the entire universe.
Fair enough.
Wow.
I think that's a good saying.
Yes,
we'd be arrogant to think we're alone.
Right. The Skyfire Summit, I want to talk about that just real quick as we wrap up. So October 17th and 20th. And Don, you're going to be there hosting some segments talking about this. And hopefully we can talk to you again before that happens. But secrecy to transparency is the theme, right?
Yes. And that's the thing about anything that whatever the government tells you, you're much safer assuming or believing the opposite. And that continues to be the case. And that certainly is the case with UFOs, UAPs.
Good stuff,
Wow.
Don.
Don Schmitt, thank you, sir, for making some time for us. Really
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Trent.
Talk to
Thank
you
you,
again
Brian.
soon.
Talk to
Have
you
a great
again.
day.
Look forward to it.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Oh,
guys.
That was good.
Wow.
Oh, man.
What a conversation.
I bet John Hook would love to talk to him for a little while.
I think John Hook right now is at home just sweating bullets,
salivating.
going, why didn't I come into work today? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't
Maybe
blame
next
him.
week.
Hey, we have another good guest coming up.
Yes,
and we
this
know
is
this
a
guy
very
pretty
important
well.
topic. So we can bring in Justin Lum. Justin,
come on up here, man.
Fox 10 investigator. He's got a very, very important story we've been working on. And Brian, I believe that you had a part in the early reporting on it.
But the charismatic killer. Justin, why does he have that nickname?
That's how Scottsdale police describe him, as charismatic and manipulative.
Yeah.
I remember you covering that as he had just been identified right before his arrest.
Yeah.
So we've been digging into Matthew Deringer's criminal history, and we know that he was on probation stemming back to a 2024 case. He had pled guilty to theft of some sunglasses, but there was much more to it. We know, as you reported, there was a history of animal cruelty in Colorado, but he had also allegedly been cruel and mistreated dogs just last summer here in downtown Phoenix. Court documents say he walked up to this woman walking her dog, her little dog, asked to pet him. Again, charismatic, friendly. She said, okay, sure, like anybody would. And he allegedly picked the dog up, slammed the dog to the ground, this dog named Mateo. Within 10 minutes, kicked another dog off its leash, and then just kept on going. Another man that he allegedly tried to punch, and then that's when he stole the glasses. But animal cruelty charges were never filed.
Wow.
So we're now hearing from that dog owner, the one who's had her dog, Mateo, slammed to the ground. And we're trying to find out, as we've been trying to learn, well, what does it take to file animal cruelty charges? And could that have brought on a heftier sentence? Because as we know, he was on probation. They couldn't find him. He didn't check in with his officer. And what happened? He's accused of killing 67-year-old Frank Quanta.
And that's the part of the charismatic thing, right? I went to the church where I guess this church in South Phoenix, forgive me, I forget the name.
But it was a Heath Relief Center, right?
Relief
Wesley
Center?
Methodist
Wesley?
Church in South Phoenix, and
They're
that's where it is.
Super nice. And I guess he went there as a homeless individual and then befriended the gentleman at that church who was trying to help him, and then somehow charismatically convinced him to let him stay at his apartment.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? I mean, helping one is one thing at the church, but Frank let him live with him for months, and on September 1st, I believe, he was found beaten and bloodied, found dead in his home, and his Apple Watch was basically his fibula, was able to track his health and when his last activity was, and then DNA evidence came to play, and investigators say that Deringer's DNA matches to the blood found at the scene, which was a lot of blood. I mean, it was very graphic, and so now he's being prosecuted for first-degree murder. But you have this case here where the owner of this dog is saying, more should have been done, because as we have learned, she had bed records on the injuries. And the county attorney's office says we weren't prosecuting because there's no proof of injury.
Wow.
So where's the gap of communication between Phoenix police and the county attorney's office, where there could have been at least records submitted with this case, and maybe there could have been a charge on animal cruelty.
I want to play a clip real quick, Justin, of when he was in court on this murder charges, his initial appearance before the judge. I mean, he spoke and had a few things to say. If we could play that, Ashley, real quick.
I believe that you are being given wrong information about me entirely and my name. This proceeding was illegal, Your Honor.
Sir, that's why I appointed you an attorney. He or she can file whatever you think is necessary, and they agree with. Good luck, sir.
Thank you. Actually, I don't know if I should thank you or not, but God bless you and have God in your soul.
You've seen a lot of court video.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of appearances. What's your read from that?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, through all the court records we've been reading on Deringer, mental health issues have been indicated, whether it's from Colorado, you're looking at these pictures of these dogs, in this case, Teller County, where he was sentenced 18 months in prison for animal cruelty.
Can you walk us through that a little bit about what he did to
his
those
roommate's
dogs?
2 dogs in Colorado? He killed, mutilated. They were found just in horrific condition, these 2 dogs here. But he ended up getting that conviction for the animal cruelty charge, 18 months in prison, somehow ends up in Texas. As well, there's a criminal mischief case, and we had talked about this on our On the Record show, where authorities found him banging his head on the wall, very upset, very angry, saying he's going to cause a commotion, causing damage to people's cars, all in a matter of minutes. So clearly, like, in his case here, in Maricopa County, a Rule 11 was discussed, and that's, are you competent to stand charges? We could see that happen again here with this case involving murder. So, where is his mental health at? Big question.
Can you talk a little bit about, within the last year, we had a new animal cruelty law, right, in Arizona that went on the books, but has the attitude at least changed about that a little bit? But before, with animal cruelty statutes in Arizona, it's kind of lacking, some might say.
I think it still remains the same, where there's not enough teeth. The Jerry's law that was passed, that has to do with having water and food and shelter for the dog. And you've covered these animal cruelty cases as well. It's like, what constitutes the lack of that? In this case, I mean, what do you need to show to prove injury? In this case, this woman has vet records for back pain, traumatic injury for this dog, Mateo, but would that have been enough? So, prosecutors need help from legislators as well. We're not pointing the finger here. We're asking questions as to what happened with these charges, because all he got was a theft conviction.
And isn't it, Justin and Trenton, we all know just the supposed telltale sign of someone who's going to commit bigger crimes is when they punish animals. They're easy targets at first, and the theory is they often go on to injure humans. And now we have the Colorado case. We have at least 1 or 2 cases in theory around here. And then we have what happened to Frank.
So the county attorney's office knew about what happened in 2020, but you've got to prosecute within the boundaries you have. Yes, that happened in 2025 years ago or 4 years ago at the time, but do you have enough likelihood to convict? Do you have reasonable likelihood for a conviction and enough evidence? Now, again, were the vet records enough? We may never know, because they weren't submitted with the case from Phoenix PD to the county attorney's office. So just frustration from this dog owner, who eventually put Mateo down because his health wasn't the same. He had PTSD from that incident, being slammed to the ground. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
When's the story, Justin?
Tonight at 9. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so we'll preview that at 5 and full report at 9.
Good stuff.
Okay, 9 o'clock. We'll be watching.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, guys.
Stick with us, guys. We're going to talk to Richard Saenz after
He's rolling.
He's rolling, and he's Richard. We'll be right back. Hey, back to Fox 10 Talks. Me and Trenton here. Hope you've enjoyed our discussions.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Planets and space objects, UAPs.
Yeah. We didn't say aliens.
Why did they change the UFO to UAPs?
Honestly, Brian, I think it's just DEI. That's what it is. DEI. Yep.
ASAP.
It's not as critical, I think, to say UFO anymore.
I see.
That's an old term. We don't use that anymore. We say UAP.
Every now and then we got to move on.
Exactly.
To new terms.
We've got to be tasteful. Is there any little bit you think of trickery that might happen with trying to manipulate some of these systems that isn't a human?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be too conspiratorial, but I wonder if there's any fail safes with this that they've thought of where.
So the Astros are going to get into the computer system.
I didn't say it as a Houston Astros.
That's your state, bro.
I didn't say it was going to happen or not. I can neither confirm nor deny, but something tells me. I mean, because these teams, especially with Moneyball and how that's changed it, and just how deep these front office and extra teams can go with trying to find, is there a new system that we can get around to get an edge?
So you're saying that strike goes in, but some organization
I don't know.
tightens the box,
I don't know.
so now it's a ball,
is there
and my guy
get?
gets.
But enough of us
base.
talking about it.
All right. Let's bring in the expert.
Richard Saenz, he's with us. Richard, we're talking robot empires. What's it going to mean? But where is he?
Are you rolling?
Yeah. Is that an episode of Breaking Bad?
I'm in the RV. I'm with John Netzel, our chief photographer. John, our engineer.
I recognize back of John any day. Yeah.
We're working on the all the mics and stuff. We got our cameras mounted. Can you see these cameras here?
Boy,
cameras mounted.
That is decked out.
Yeah. Well, then we got some other cameras up here on the front. So this one shows what I can see when I'm driving. This one's going to be on me when I'm driving. Then we'll have another one that's looking outside to the tailgate area.
But Richard,
we'll be live streaming tomorrow, starting at noon, from the Cardinals Seahawks game.
With
then,
all the
after that.
Sorry, man, but with all those cameras, if the RV's rocking.
Well, I believe this gives a new definition to all access. That
don't
we didn't
come
have
and
before.
knocking.
Right.
But the cameras are still going to be there.
Said it best, I believe.
Yeah, notice none of the cameras are facing that way towards the bedroom area.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Smart man.
You don't want to see me in my Aquaman PJs,
Yes.
Hey, what are your thoughts on what are your thoughts on the robot umpires, bro?
Century, man.
Yeah,
what were you saying?
What are your thoughts on the robot umpires coming our way?
It's coming, right? They've been making major changes to Major League Baseball, from the pitch comm, where the pitchers and catchers can communicate by push of a button with the speakers inside the caps. That way they don't steal signs. So modern technology is going to have a major impact. You have the pitch clock as well. The bigger bases. It's amazing when these changes happen. I think of older players like Ricky Henderson. Like, how many bases would he have stolen if he knew the pitcher's got to throw it within a certain amount of seconds? They can only do 2 pickoff plays. If you don't get him on the third time, you automatically get second base. Now with the robot umpires and being able to challenge, it's bizarre. I always wonder what these older guys are thinking. I know Will Clark was not very happy at all. He had some choice words, very colorful language when talking about that. But it's just part of the changes in the modern technology and how it's going to affect everything we do when you think about it.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, we were talking about just a second ago before we got to you with the innovations with Moneyball and how a lot of these teams, I mean, their benches go deep with extra support personnel to kind of come up with an edge of how you're going to find a weakness in the system, get around it. But do you foresee any issues with this? I mean, maybe not officially with this system, but what are teams doing right now with these new innovations with technology?
Like,
how are they jumping into
software?
It?
Is that what you're accusing
can we get
them of
around it? Is there
doing?
something we can do? Walk a certain way, throw a certain way.
Yeah, analytics has been huge, right? Like you mentioned the movie Moneyball, and there was a lot of pushback, right? Like, wait a minute, that's not how we do things around here, but now, when people start to realize it gives you a competitive edge, people get on board. And I think it's just like anything. When you see this change coming, the smart organizations, the smart players, the smart teams will start to embrace it and figure out how to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, it's human nature to try to get the advantage, is right? Can we just say
absolutely?
Yeah.
And it's human nature to be kind of scared of change and be like, wait a minute.
Very true.
Why are they doing this? It was working fine before, but it takes us, a certain type of people to say, hey, what if we try this? What if we try? And it's all going to be with the intention of helping the game, right? Whether it's speeding up the game or whether it's getting the call right. Sometimes there is human error. There is emotion. If an umpire doesn't like a certain batter or a manager, he might, call it a little bit tighter with this particular pitcher than another pitcher. But when you have a robot there, that element is taken out of this equation.
Yeah, and Charles David weighing in on the chat, you'll have to bring your robot to the game to yell at the AI call-outs. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah, you'll have robot hecklers before you know it.
That's good. That's good. Right. It's coming. Well, tell us a little bit more. I cut you off on the Rollin with Richard. Who's our what's the schedule? What's the itinerary there?
Yeah, you saw the banner that just popped up a minute ago. I'm going to be live streaming starting at noon tomorrow at State Farm Stadium. And then after the game, probably around halftime, I'm going to go from the Cardinal game that's on Fox 10 against the Seattle Seahawks.
It's a great
logo. ASU.
Yeah.
Go to ASU, and then that's also on Fox 10, ASU TCU. So I'll be live streaming the entire time, even when I'm driving, even when I'm sleeping. And then so I'll be live streaming on our Fox 10 YouTube channel from 12 noon tomorrow till 11 p.m. on Friday night.
So
it's going to be the streaming event of the century.
If I tune in the middle of the night, I might accidentally see Richard Saenz walking around in his underoos, Aquaman style.
That's my fantasy football lineup.
There's a
chance.
Making
fantasy football transactions.
Oh, yeah. I can't unsee that in my mind already.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
Be prepared.
Yeah. And it doesn't even cost a subscription. That's the great thing. No one will know.
Right?
And people, they can get in the chat. I'll have my computer up. Want to ask me some questions? We can talk. We can have a midnight chat, 3 a.m. chat. I'm a bit of a night owl, so I'll probably be up and around, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
You talk about change. I never thought I'd be doing this when I got in the business. I'll tell you that right now.
It's such a good thing. I love that picture of him on the banner too. That's so great. And what's your go-to grill food? You go more burgers or brats, or where do you go?
I'm a burger guy. I also like, fajitas, but we were just having a meeting, and Steve Levi, our news director, was like, what are you going to do for food when you're out there? I go, well, if I'm parked in the Great Lawn, I'm sure I could just mooch off people that are out there. Be like, hey, what are you cooking over there? Let me try that. Hey, you want to be on our live stream? And bring them over. And, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of food. I'm going to bring some yogurt though for the morning.
Steve,
I got some ice chest. I got
healthy
a microwave
option
here.
Steve Levi just wanted to make sure the budget didn't go too high with your food.
It was more of a rhetorical question, honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He waits till less than 24 hours to worry about, are you going to be able to survive out there?
Yes, the important things we've already checked off.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, can you preview for us just a little bit? You are going to have some big name guests to come into the RV, to step into the sanctum, if you will, of Richardness.
Yeah. Well, and to all you fans out there, if you're parked at the Great Lawn, come on by. I'll be on the west side of the Great Lawn. Gonzo might come by. He's going to at least FaceTime with us. Paul Calvisi will break down the game. I'm also going to bring in Brian Fowler, who is attempting to break the Guinness World Book of Records for attending the most games in one season. This guy's nuts. He's my idol. I can't wait to talk to him. He is going to an NFL game every Thursday, every Sunday, every Monday.
Whoa.
And he's been doing it since the season started. So at the end of the year, he'll have 50-plus games. Right now, the world record is 33. He's going to shatter that. So he'll come by. And then, of course, Megan Plain's going to stop by. Blake Neiman's going to stop by. So it would be whoever's out there will be, whoever wants to come by the RV, hop in, enter at your own risk, and we'll talk. We'll chop it up. I'll have some snacks and swag to give away. It's going to be a lot of fun.
48 hours, untapped, all Richard Saenz in the RV. I love it.
It's going to be madness.
Amazing.
Like Netflix and all those other streaming, they're going to go,
amateurs by comparison.
What happened to our numbers?
Yeah.
They just took a dive. They tanked over the weekend.
Starting Thursday.
Good stuff,
Gone.
Richard. Good stuff. Good luck out there, man.
Yeah,
All right,
Rich.
thanks.
We'll bring you food for sure if our news
Yeah, there you
director
go.
won't.
I'm
We
gonna
will.
have a sign. I'm gonna have a sign that says "Low report for food."
There you go.
Indeed. Okay, so if you see Rich out there, say hi,
say
be
hi
a
to
friend. And we just disappeared into outer space. This is the perfect way to end the show. We're back.
Next one.
This is transcendental, I think, this Box 10 Talks.